they just need to get to the hospital as soon as possible. But that's a situation that could have turned out much different. It was actually Winchester police that were initially there, and they showed an extreme amount of restraint dealing with someone that had a knife, and yeah, they could have ended completely different. So I'm appreciative of the way Officer Sumner handled the situation. So.
Yeah. Kudos to the Winchester PD too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I wasn't on scene at that time, but
Yeah.
from the picture I gathered after, it sounded like he did a good job staying back and making sure that he talked the juvenile down. So, another good case. This is a good investigation case by Oleg. The same person that, if you remember, threatened to shoot the principal and someone else at the school. Well, predictably, perhaps unfortunately continued in that type of behavior. In this situation, along with some larceny type of behavior and destruction of property, left 2 dogs behind when he left the residence, and the dogs were extremely emaciated and sad. So so filthy conditions, dogs left behind to die. So great job by Oleg and Animal Control Officer Dragon. Did a great case. Again, it hasn't it's not over yet. It's still an open case, but I think from my reading of it, it's a pretty solid case, and hopefully there'll be justice in this situation. Either way, the dogs, from my understanding, are at least in receiving the care that they need and making a comeback. So. Another case, if Weaver, if you want to come up, I got two here with you.
He's here again?
He's here again.
He hasn't been here that long. He's only the 3rd time. Just kidding.
So if you haven't met him, this is our new officer, Curtis Weaver. I think he's been introduced a couple times. It's actually, it's funny, when I went back to check the last 6 months, this case came up, but he wasn't even working for us at the time. I was just going to give Oleg credit for it, but you can actually say more about it than I can. So Officer Weaver was working for Bernardston, had a call for a car that was crashed, and someone was stuck in the car, and you ended up getting cut, breaking through the window. So
I did, yeah.
You want to share about it? Or?
Yeah, so there's a rollover crash. The car hit a telephone pole, almost hit a house and a couple trees. Operator was actually in the back of the SUV and it was rolled over on its side. I was first on scene. I attempted to break through the back hatch of the vehicle. Was unsuccessful. So I ended up having to break out the driver's side window, and while doing so, my hand went through the glass and blood started going everywhere. Fire department arrived on the scene. She ended up crawling out on her own. Went to the hospital right after to have my cuts cleaned, and was back to work the next day.
But we never know when those are going to catch fire, and that's what's in our mind during that time. At what point is thing's going to catch fire, and it's going to get pretty bad pretty quick. So, yeah. Well, good job. And one more before you leave. This one's another one where he was working for Bernardston. We actually collaborated on this one, but we had the break-ins on the other side of the river on Mount Herman Station Road, and I forget how many cases we had here. We probably had 5 to 10 cars broken into, but you would probably remember more than I do. But did he get 5 years in jail?
Yeah, it was 2.5 on, 2.5 after. So essentially, he's got sentenced to 5 years in Franklin County House of Corrections.
Yeah.
That was in the paper.
Yep, and he pled guilty on all charges.
Yeah. What wasn't in the paper is maybe he was motivating me the whole time. He kept calling me and saying, "Chief, you want to go do an interview?" He's in Brattleboro's custody right now. And it's those little things that make all the difference. Is that even though we were both off duty, he talked me into going in and doing the interview. And sometimes those type of interviews make all the difference. But it's because he was in. There's little other details in the case. I'm not going to talk about it because it hasn't gone to trial yet. But that being said, going the extra mile to get some of the fingerprint evidence and other things. So.
Well, way to stay on top of it.
Yeah.
Detective work there, I see.
Yeah, very good detective work.
We don't mess around. We like to get right to the bottom of things.
And it's good to know, because a lot of times if it's not handled that way, I'm just being honest with you, I've seen it handled both ways, that it's so hard to get probable cause, more likely than not, that this person's the person that did it if you don't go the extra mile. So I appreciate that, and I'm glad you work here now.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Chief.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job, Chris.
This one's a quick one. Officer Welcome. He's actually had a number of good cases. A part-time police officer, Ben Welcome, and he's the one that last year, actually, the last time I did this, he had that.
He
Yeah.
had those elderly men out of the house.
Yeah, and this is one that's often overlooked, but he works part-time and he hadn't worked in a couple weeks, and he came in, he was reading the log, and he saw that state police again had helped us out. They had a crash that occurred in town, and then he was able to kind of figure out based on the log and some other activities that we had in town that the person that crashed was most likely also responsible for some other stuff that happened in town. Ended up being a juvenile, but he closed that case, was able to do an interview and get the juvenile to confess to it, so was able to close a case, which it does matter to some degree because there are restitutions involved, and you want the people that caused the damage to be responsible for that. So one of our big signs was damaged, some guardrails, some other things. So just a good job by Officer Welkin. It's easy just to come in and not read the log, and then even if you did see it, to be like, not my problem. But to take it on himself and have that self-initiation initiative is appreciated. So I appreciate it. And sorry everyone in the audience. John Cowan.
Come on.
All right, I gotta watch how I word this because it is a joke here, but this is not Rob Layton. This is John Cowan. He's been here 20 years. I think there's a lot of residents that have seen John Cowan over the years and just assumed he was the chief of police. He kind of looks like a chief of police, but no. So I get it all the time. Like, did you hire Rob Layton back? No. As far as I know, Rob Layton's still retired and great, but this is not Rob Layton. This is John Cowan. He's been here for 20 years, and he does this. He has a full-time job. He does this. Usually works on Sundays. He does this because he's passionate about helping his community. So he's a good guy. He's got that military haircut, but doesn't mean they're not still a friendly, good community policing guy. So.
Well, I've ridden with him.
She's
so.
done the right
Yes.
one.
Yeah, I've seen him up.
Yep. So, that being said, the reason he's here is I probably had I did a bad job. I've had 2 or 3 compliments about him, like people that had car stops from him to just say, hey, just so you know, Officer Cowan went out of his way to help me out. My car was unregistered, or my license wasn't squared away. He went out of the way. Someone sent me a letter, or sent us a letter, because the wife of the patient really put it together to say my husband probably wouldn't have been around if John wasn't there, because he's the one that was able to talk. Someone else he knew, I'm trying to be vague in the details. He knew the person well enough to say, listen, so you have to go to the hospital on this one. Am I right in that? Basically what happened. And so the person went to the hospital, and if they hadn't, probably wouldn't have made it. So,
They had a GI bleed and they didn't know it.
yeah. So,
Oh.
yep. So those little things that make all the difference, though, because
And that was something you noticed when you were.
I've known this person for
and
I got called to the medical.
Oh, okay.
I went to the medical call. I knew the person, walked in, took one look at them, and said, "You don't look good at all." I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to the hospital." I'm like, "You gotta go." and he went.
Yeah.
And he's still here today. So.
probably not the type of person who would normally be made to go, but
No.
I think he talks in sense of
Pretty tough guy too, you know.
Yeah.
One of these rub some dirt on it kind of guy.
You can't out tough a GI bleed though.
Well, that's the whole point.
Right.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
But he didn't look so great. So
You can be convincing.
Yeah. So I've got a lot of compliments about Officer Cowan. This is actually a compliment that we don't get all the time, but this shows you how difficult it is to do the job, because a lot of times people think that it's like cut and dry, and, criminal behavior is cut and dry. But this is the type of situation where there's someone on a 4-wheeler and it gets called in. The 4-wheeler is broken down. It's like an ATV type of, not a 4-wheeler. What do you call it?
a UTV, a utility vehicle.
Yeah,
Side
kind of
by
one with
side.
the cabs or whatever. And it's broken down, and Officer Cowan goes there to investigate. And the more he's there, his spidey senses are going off, and he's saying, "There's something up with this. Like, your story's not really making sense. So it's starting to look like the person stole it." But then on top of that, the person's behavior is also not making too much sense either. And it got to the point where the person ended up running into the woods. And so, towards the direction of the train tracks. And John knows that the train's going, and he's thinking, I think this is a mental health thing, and he's heading towards the train tracks. So he shuts down the train. There was a train coming, and he shuts it down. long story short, after an hour or two of searching, canines involved and everything, we ended up finding the person. And at the end of the conclusion of that day, the person's parents ended up showing up. But it was established that this was a mental health thing. Their parent had passed away recently that caused them to have their mental health decline. And they just were not, almost like a psychosis type of situation. They were not thinking clearly. And so there was no real criminal intent per se. I guess that they did steal an ATV. But that being said, the person did reach out to me later, and they gave me wrote a letter. And they said, hi, my name is so-and-so. I spoke to Chief Hall. He gave me this email to communicate with the officers who helped me when I was in a very bad way. I would like to thank them for keeping me safe when I was not in my right mind and contemplating ending my life. I am in the process of enrolling in a mental health program to help me handle my grief and trauma that was pulling me under. I'm also trying to find a way to get in touch with the owner of the ATV to make everything right. I also want to apologize for any disrespectful behavior towards the officers who responded, which did happen, specifically Officer Cowan, because I recognize that ultimately he was trying to help me. I'm sorry if I'm not forgetting others' names. I would also like to thank whoever had the train held because I was trying to hurt myself using it. I'm doing a little better now, definitely staying out of trouble, and I'm going to work hard on improving my mental health. Thank you all for helping me. But that's a situation where didn't know until you got the letter that your intuition was correct, that the person did have intentions of going to the train track. So,
It's a really rewarding
yeah,
letter to get.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Chief, I noticed that you spoke about all your officers, and I think it's also important to recognize that the leadership involved in professionalizing Northfield PD comes from a good chief. So, and I think that's important to recognize as well. In the past couple of years, I think we've seen a new era of professionalization and investigator skills. What I just heard, and hearing a lot of good things about first aid as well. And ultimately, a lot of this job comes from people skills and being able to communicate correctly with the public. And I think those topics, transparency, honesty, that you and just the overall positive reinforcement that you're giving to your officers is an extremely useful performance measure when it comes to keeping people in our town, keeping officers in our town, and still making us the employer of choice, which is what we've been all about here. So, and of course, that also helps when it comes down to teaching our youth in town what we do here and what our uniformed personnel do here as well. It's great outreach for the kids. So, and that's a thank you to yourself.
Thank you.
We got to keep that up. So that's great. And thank you to Curtis and to John as well for your continued service.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
It's great to have you guys here. It's great to see the growth that Northfield PD has had. And anybody who knows me at this point knows I didn't say those things when I was first on the board. So people can change, opinions can change, attitudes can change, and I think you're proof of that, I'm proof of that, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we head from here. So this is awesome. So thank you.
Thank you. I just asked that the select board just keep doing what you're doing, which is just, you don't have, there's no sides here. Just be objective. Any information you hear and, weigh it out. If we do a bad job and we're not doing our job correctly, I'd like to hear that constructive criticism. But at the same time, if we are doing the best that we can, I appreciate it that there's people able to recognize that, especially in this day and age. So.
Since you're here for an update, I did have one more question.
Yeah.
We had a clinical worker who was doing ride-alongs.
Today with Officer Weaver.
Excellent.
Yep.
Can we give, I know I've had people ask me about what that process is and what's going on there.
Yeah.
Could you just give a couple sentences on it?
Yeah, so CSO, Clinical Support Options, thank you, John. Clinical Support Options out of Greenfield. It was actually Chief Holst of Irving that kind of started this whole thing. But because each town doesn't have enough calls for service per se to have that kind of funding towards it, so he was able to apply for a grant and collaborate with Northfield, Irving, Gill, Bernardston, and Leverett. So between the 5 towns, we had enough calls between all of us to justify having a mental health clinician that is basically paid for through this DMH grant. And so the way that it works is the mental health clinician, who is a CSO employee, rides with an officer Monday through Friday, currently 9 to 5, right? I think 9 to 5. And they respond to any ongoing calls, but on top of that, which is equally important, is to stay proactive about past calls so people are having follow-ups. And so today was the day that Jess is our new mental health clinician was with Officer Weaver today, and so they went to some calls around, some mental health calls around, and they also visited some people in town that just to stay on top of any issues that are going on. And I think that was the call Officer Weaver just left, right? The call in town? Yeah. So that's basically it in a nutshell. And and on the days that they're not in Northfield, and let's say Jess is paired up with Gil tomorrow with maybe Chief Redmond. If something happens in Northfield, they will respond over to Northfield. So that's it. It's through a grant. It's not a forever thing, but as long as the funding is available, that's the way that it works.
I think
Great.
we look at the renewal of the grant and the contract with other towns every June, I think, May or June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I'm trying to be transparent here, so I'm trying to put my foot in my mouth. I don't see this as being the solution long term. This is a great opportunity, and I'm glad that Chief Holst did it, but it'd be great at some point that we didn't have to be reliant on this external funding, because when that goes, then it goes, and then what do? And so it would be good if in the future, if the grant does go away, the towns collaborate to keep something like this to continue going on, which actually the vehicle that you're going to talk to is something that could be used for something like this type of program. So
Speaking of which, we'll just get right into that. I've just pulled up the letter right here. So this is as a result, I'm assuming, a seize that happened with the Northwestern District Attorney's Office?
yeah, I'm not going to get too much into detail, but yeah, this is correct.
Okay. And how soon will we be taking possession of this vehicle?
I don't need it right away, but it's ready for us, so I'll just take it. It will be utilized primarily right away for actually Officer Weaver, so to keep our car 4 is up there in miles, and currently Officer Weaver's been using that to drive back and forth, so it'll save us some miles with Officer Weaver utilizing this vehicle, and we also have a couple officers that are involved with the task force that would use it.
Awesome. Okay.
So would it be unmarked then?
It's unmarked. It's
an admin?
It's an admin, yeah, and it would be used in a task force type of situation. But for us, it would also be used. We believe it or not, there's some stuff that goes on in town and some operations that have actually been going on since I've been here. Some investigations, and it's that type of vehicle where it would be able to blend in. And we can also use it in other situations, admin type of situations.
So here's a question then. So since we are taking possession of what will now be town property, and the select board has authority over town property of its, do we have to, Andrea, do we have to create a motion to accept this as town property like we do when we get rid of things?
Yes.
You should.
Okay. All right. Entertain a motion to accept the 2009 GMC Acadia color red. I'm not reading the VIN number. To be accepted as town property.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous passing with an absent member. So the vehicle is now considered town property. Official sign off on the board. So that's cool.
Yeah, great.
Congratulations.
May I ask, were you saying admin as in administrative, or was
Yeah.
it a different word? Okay, I just
yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Administrative.
Yeah.
Say if there was a training out east or something, you could just take that vehicle as opposed to taking a
Got it.
cruiser. Anything to keep the miles off the cruisers.
Also, if you have a juvenile, you have to use an unmarked, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Chief.
Thank you.
Should I stick around for your thing, or should I? Yeah. Okay. Are you up
I don't know if I can follow that.
Oh yeah. Good luck to you. All right. Thank you, guys.
Outstanding. Okay, any citizens' concerns? Any concerned citizens? Anybody who wishes to state their concerns? Yes.
How you doing?
Hi there. Please come forward. State your name for the record.
It's John Buxton from 119 Cross Road.
Okay.
Hi, John.
Hey.
You
how
have
are
been
guys?
given. Well, I'm not a hard or stickler on this, but We usually allot 3 minutes per individual. So,
Okay.
But I'm not gonna stop you right at that. so.
Okay, I think I'll be close. I hope. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I'm here once again to bring attention to a major issue in our town: the ongoing large-scale industrial solar installations. To quickly recap some background on the neighborhood that I live in, 3 massive solar arrays with 26,000 panels were recently approved on Pine Meadow Road and are scheduled to be installed in our residential agricultural zone neighborhood. It was appealed and argued over the last couple of years, but ultimately it was shown that our bylaws weren't clear enough to stop it. To punctuate that point quickly, during the course of that application process, it's my understanding that when our town officials asked the solar company Blue Wave to show us where in our bylaws does it say you can build this industrial-sized energy plant in a residential neighborhood, their response was, show us where it says we can't. So, of course, we have a new proposal. Here we go again. We're faced with a new proposal by the same solar company, also on Pine Meadow Road. This new one is for a 30-acre field along the Connecticut River, across the street from one of the other arrays, and the panels will be less than 150 feet from my home, from my living room. I believe being so close poses a legitimate risk to my family's health. This new proposal is different in the fact that the solar company isn't leasing the land to share with a farmer, but buying it for themselves as part of their more recent mission to own their assets. In my meetings with Blue Wave, I asked if our town would receive any of the energy produced. They said no. I asked about our solar overlay district. They immediately said that they are not interested in that area because it's too limited and too small. It would be, quote, a drop in the bucket. Big Solar is not interested in our solar overlay district. They want to build on farmland. The state pays them more money to do so. They have other farmland in Northfield already in their queue and are lining up more and more of these installations as we speak. So it's very understandable that after a meeting on February 22nd, the Open Space Committee submitted a request to our planning board for a moratorium on large-scale solar, and I have recently turned in a completed petition to the town clerk for the same, a 15-month moratorium on large-scale ground-mounted solar to be put to a vote at an upcoming town meeting. If passed, it will still allow plenty of solar in our town. It would not unreasonably regulate solar. It will just put a hold on the industrial size installs that we are already overwhelmed with. As an individual owning land who would be affected by this bylaw change or adoption, I urge the select board to put this moratorium to a town vote ASAP and to join with many other towns in the Commonwealth that are standing up to the state legislature and allow us to debate and create some crystal clear bylaws. I want to point out real quick, our town has a community preservation committee that allocates funds that must be used for the preservation of open space, a conservation commission to protect and preserve the natural resources of the town and to enforce the protection of wetlands, a historical commission to ensure that distinctive and important characteristics of Northfield are preserved and that new developments are compatible. We have an open space committee to ensure that Northfield protects farmland, forest land, scenic views, and other open space vital to sustaining the town's historic rural character. These committees exist to protect the fabric of our town, and the language in their mission statements are the voices of our town's people. Their recommendations should not be taken lightly.
Okay.
I know I'm out of town.
Yep.
I'll finish real quick just by saying,
Wrap it up. Yep.
as someone who works on a farm every winter, I'm not anti-farmer. I can't blame them for being interested in the idea. I'm not anti-solar by any means either, but there's certainly a lot to unpack here. So we invite everyone to join our Facebook and Nextdoor groups for more facts and details, including images of what it will look like, and we can decide as a community if we think these types of industrial installations on our farmland are worth it.
Okay, Mr. Buxton, thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your concerns.
Really appreciate the time. Sorry.
Yeah. No, not a problem.
I was trying to speak as fast as I could. I'm
Yeah,
sure I
no,
went
you
over.
did good. You did good.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Am I allowed to talk for this second?
As a citizen,
As a
yeah.
citizen,
As a
yeah.
citizen, yeah. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, no problem. 30 seconds.
No.
So I actually, and I apologize, my neighbor here, I'm the one of the people that signed, so pretend
We'll
I'm
just,
not-
oh, excuse me. Sandra, we'll just note John Hall
Yeah,
as
resident.
a citizen, as a resident, please.
Yeah, so pretend like this isn't here, because it really has nothing to do with the police department. And almost like he said, I'm not against solar, but when he showed me last night where they're putting it, I mean, we have as a community draw a line right on the river. I mean, that's what our town's all about. It's about the river. I bought a house on the river for a reason. I'm not happy that it's going in across the street from my house, but at least my house is on the river and it's on the other side of the street. In this situation, it's right on the river. To me, that is not what Northfield wants in their community. I think that we need to take a pause. Obviously, it's up to the select board, but I think we all can agree. Just take a little bit of a pause here and say, all right, who's determining this stuff? Because this town has not always been about making every penny that they can make. We have to make decisions for the long term, for this community and our kids and our kids' kids to enjoy what we've been able to enjoy, especially the river and the banks of the river and being able to see the eagles fly over the river and all the geese that gather there, and without looking at solar. I mean, that's not why I moved to Northfield. So, thank you.
Thank you for your concerns, Mr. Hall. Have that noted as well. Okay. Review and approval of warrants for the March 6, 2024 payroll warrant of $74,548.39.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, typical payroll warrant. Usually we see those types of numbers in there. I think it looked good. Nothing out of the ordinary when I skimmed it.
I think more highway work.
Yeah. Yeah, great. All in favor? Aye. Okay. And if I could hear a motion for the March 6, 2024 vendor warrant of $100,858.10, which includes snow removal and ARPA hearing loops.
Second.
Oh, so moved.
We have a motion from B and it's seconded by Bernard. Do I have any further discussion on that? Is there any?
No, I will say that
Yeah.
the hearing loops are the ones that are going into the senior center.
Yes,
So, yeah.
we've been waiting for those. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. More ARPA money spent. Great.
Yes.
Review and approval of the minutes, the 2/20/2024 open session minutes.
Which was in our packet. Did we get the executive session minutes to review?
Weeks ago.
Yes.
Oh, they've already been,
In the
Right,
envelopes.
I
got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We always view them, but we don't talk about them, obviously, but we take them. For
But I
our-
read them at the moment, so I
Yes,
know, I just wasn't sure
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the dates.
The open session minutes, well detailed, looks good.
I didn't have any objection.
No, I don't either. That's above and beyond what I see in board minutes, so this is great. Good work, Sandy. Yeah, look at that.
They take a lot of time.
They
Good
do.
minutes take a lot of
She
time.
has
Yeah.
to watch the meeting again.
Yeah.
You gotta relive. You have to relive all of the nightmares
You guys talk a little fast.
all over again.
Thanks for BSETV.
How fabulous!
Shout out to BNCT. So moved? Did you do it?
Yeah. I mentioned the minutes, so that.
Second.
All in.
Are we stirring stuff up?
A motion to,
Approve the minutes of February 20th, 2024.
Second.
Okay.
I thought we, yeah.
Further discussion. All in favor?
aye.
Outstanding.
It's like psychic approval of.
I make a motion to approve the January 23rd, 2024 executive session minutes.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve the February 6th, 2024 executive session minutes.
Second.
Discussion. Any? None?
Nope.
All in, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, they looked all good. They were fine. Interim select board meetings. Don't think we had anything. No interim select board meetings. Meetings and events attended by select board members. Yes, I had two things. I attended the fire department pancake breakfast at the elementary school. I ate lots of pancakes and lots of yummy sausage links and orange juice and coffee. It was a good time. We had a lot of fun. I got to see a lot of people I don't usually get to see in town too much. Probably their biggest turnout yet, very successful turnout. Money was raised.
How many people do you think were there?
Oh, I don't even know. But I was there, and the entire cafeteria was filled up, all tables.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so that was good. And then I also voted yesterday. I practiced my First Amendment right and the ability to vote who I felt was the best to lead this country. So I participated in the March 5th voting at the town hall.
Excellent. Oh, me?
Yeah, anybody else?
Let's see, Finance Committee, the Business Park study with West Mass, we had a Teams meeting with them, and that's about it.
I had Conservation Commission, Open Space, B and I had a grant development director hiring committee after the last meeting.
Maybe I'm not looking at the, yeah.
The fire department breakfast, which was so great. It was really nice, and they said it was the biggest turnout they'd had so far. Also at the breakfast, I met someone who I'd never met before, the PVRS school nurse, and we talked about Lyme disease and education, and it was really cool. Health education in the schools. It was fun. I met with a FERCOG community development representative. They're doing a grant-supported project to determine if they're going to hire somebody at the FERCOG level about community development. I attended the business park intro, and B, I think you were on that one too.
Yes.
The business park intro meeting, we got grant money for
This is with,
a planning
West
firm,
Mass.
West
Yeah.
Mass, to begin looking at possibilities for business park in town. And so we had that initial meeting. I attended the Economic Development Advisory Committee, and I came to vote. And we also came to the town clerk with a local homeschool student and asked and put them on the spot and said, what does the town clerk do? And so that was a fun meeting. And it's always cool to hear it from like how we express it to fresh eyes. So that was pretty cool. And so both the town clerk and the assistant town clerk participated in that conversation. And it was really, I thought it was a really good outreach. They're very, they're polished and they know their stuff. So shout out to them.
yeah, good. I just wanted to say on the Finance Committee, I've been to all of them, but the last two, since the last select board meeting, involved, they're finishing up their review process, and we're going to be doing a joint meeting with them at some point and bringing forth the highlights of that. Some of the budgets, like the Historical Commission is a good example. There's nothing really to see. It's the same budget and it's minimal. But the last meeting, there was a discussion about the fire truck, a possible warrant article. So just a FYI on that. And also the tech school presented as well and talked about their capital plan and that the fact that it takes about 4 to 8 years. So it was good to know what that timeline was.
Bernie, anything?
Yeah, just the Friends, Northfield Seniors, and a sewer commission meeting.
Good for you.
And I voted, but
I voted too.
yeah.
They worked along, the town clerk and assistant town clerk, because I was here came right before it closed, and they've been there since like 5 a.m. To get everything set up, and then they have to stay and make sure everything's shut down properly. So good crew.
Was there an emergency services building meeting in this period? I don't know. I'm not trying to put you. I'm actually asking because I was curious. There was a financial thing that you guys were discussing, and I was wondering when we're talking about warrant articles and stuff like that.
We don't have a warrant article. Yeah, we had one on the 15th.
Oh, so that was previous.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have another one coming up that will follow up on the next steps from that one. So no new news.
All right. Busy board, lots of things going on. Proactive board members. That's really good. It's a great thing. I don't have anything else to really say.
Oh, and I
Just-
watched the Bernardston Select Board meeting last week too. So that was, and PVRS was presenting to the Select Board and the Finance Committee, so I watched that whole meeting. Very, very interesting.
Town administrator update. Andrea, you want to do a town administrator update? Hello.
Absolutely.
I absolutely have a couple things. Just wanted to let you know that I heard from Senator Comerford's office about the home rule petition regarding an act increasing Northfield Board of Sewer Commissioners from 3 to 5 members. It was filed by Representative Whip's office. It was assigned a House bill number. It's House 4404. And it is currently in the Joint Committee on Municipalities and Regional Government. So that it will also get assigned a Senate number and it will move through. But so it is in committee right now. Secondly, the MassWorks Highland Avenue Culvert Sidewalk Grant. Just after your last meeting, Tom and I met with the engineer on site on Highland Ave to begin the project. They've begun the survey work. They were there for a few days. They're probably done with the survey by now. They're beginning the wetlands work right after that. They have to get all that together to do the permitting because they will be working in a brook. So they're planning on beginning the borings somewhere around March 12th. So next week, you might see people out there again, right around the culvert. And that design phase will last a little while. They'll take all this information that they gather back and go into a design phase to come back with something before they start the permitting process. That's the next step after the town looks at the design phase. So Tom and I and possibly some neighbors will look at design and try to make it something that everybody agrees will work and function for the town. And then they start to do the permitting process. As the work again takes place in a brook, there's a large amount of wetlands permitting to be done. They anticipate this could take quite some time. So we're probably not looking at a construction until next year. Believe it or not, the permitting could take 6 or more months when you're in the actual brook wetlands to do this kind of project. So they may not be able to start this work this year. We'll see how the permitting goes, but we don't even have the design yet. So just wanted to let everybody know if they see people out there, that's what's going on. So the project is moving forward now.
Okay. Good update, nice and short.
Chair, I have 2 questions.
Questions, yes, go ahead.
So Senator Comerford, this is what I thought you were talking about with the home rule, but she put forth an amendment to, there's a law that allows the state to come in and overtake the home rule of the town and in favor of building solar. And she put in an amendment to that. Do you know what the progress on that is? Is that in the same home rule part?
I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of that bill. I'm not sure what your home rule petition is generally generated from a community, basically us asking for a law. So she may be trying to, what you may be talking about is towns being able to file home rule petitions regarding solar, because right now the solar laws in Massachusetts are fairly strict about what communities can and can't control. And so what it sounds like you're saying is she wants to amend that law with some kind of law that would allow more availability by town through the home rule petition process.
Yes.
But I can look into that. I haven't heard that has come up yet.
And then the other question was about if we could have an update on the water situation in that same area where you guys are doing the culvert there. When they came in to put power poles, there's a water break. There's a water line break out on Glenwood, and I heard that there was a stall based on condition of the water. The current water company in the transfer. Do you know anything about the transfer going on? Because I know, although those aren't town-owned things, they do pretty severely affect town citizens.
Yeah, since it's not on the agenda, I can't really speak to it. But I can look into getting an update on where we are in that process.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Moving on to business. So I'm an idiot. Vote to accept the donated police vehicle. I could have answered my own question right there, and we already did that, so we're all set. We'll now move on to Fire Chief Succession Committee. So it's important to recognize that in our notes and homework here, we have a Greenfield Recorder article that was published February 3rd, 2023, that the Whately Select Board is prepping for the fire chief's retirement and appoints a hiring committee. So the Select Board has posted the position and convened a 3-member screening committee to interview candidates, and the committee consisted of a town administrator, Brian Domina, Select Board member, and a fire department liaison, and emergency management fire department liaison / emergency management director, Lynn Sibley. So 3-person. The position was considered a strong chief in Whately. Was granted full authority in the administration of the department, including hiring and establishing rules and regulations. And in preparation for the candidate search, a few of the members on that committee said they have had some preliminary conversations that several current firefighters may be interested in the chief's position. So that's really all I can say about it. And here we also have attached a job description that talks about what they're looking for a police chief, given the fact that they're a town of some similarity. You know, we're all in Western.
They're about
Mass,
half the size, though.
Half the size in population, yeah. So, yeah, we haven't fully started a search committee yet, succession committee. So it might be time to start considering what we would like to see in a succession committee, how large, and who wants to be involved. Given the fact that we are a little bit larger than Whately, maybe we won't do 3 members. Maybe we'll look at something a little larger. And
we had talked about, kind of as the plan, we had talked about having community things and groups. I don't know how it went last time, but there was some talk about...
This is what we did. So
this is for the police.
Right. So for the police chief, I had asked... Well, I wouldn't say asked, but I had stated many times we all met in the Pioneer Valley Regional Schools gymnasium, and that I had said that we are going to set the stage for how we do succession planning with our department heads by making this search process as transparent and as efficient as possible. And I believe we did a really good job in determining who our next chief will be based on how we designed our search process, and it should be used as a template for future department heads. So I'm really hoping that we can do something similar here.
Could you briefly outline it? Because I wasn't on the...
Well, we did screening and hiring. Well, we had a screening committee, and then there was a consulting firm that we hired. I don't remember the name of it, where the selected candidates were put through a series of tests, situational writing. There was an active shooter test, I believe, as well. And it eventually came down to 2 people that appeared before the select board for the final interview. So that's it in a nutshell. But pretty much there was a large group of citizens that came about, and they were like, "This is what we want. This is what we don't want. This is what we think would be best for Northfield." And the individuals, I don't know if we had a committee established at that point or for anything like that, but I do know that a lot of what we were looking for was noted, and it was put when we put out as an advertisement when we put the position out. So
But I think that's the step we're at now.
yeah. So
Is the citizens group and the outreach and stuff like that. Do we have an idea of how we want to do that as a board? Is that, I mean, because the topic has come before the board several times on talking about the process, but
Yeah. I'm not sure I don't remember the exact steps, maybe Andrea does, of when the consultant came in, because there might have been more than one
yeah.
touch point with the community. And because we were looking toward community policing, the community part of it was a lot bigger than it might be for the fire chief.
Yeah.
And also Alex is mentioning, which was useful, is that because of the consultant, they could actually put them through a battery of questions and different types of skills to really helped with the screening process.
Yeah.
So
There's some really hard intangibles though, like that, whether you're a
but
good
there's
leader
also technical
is
stuff that
right.
Yeah. So it was a blend of the community plus all of the technical, educational requirements.
The thing is with a police chief, I'm not trying to like downgrade what a fire chief is in Northfield because it's still an extremely important position for a department that has saved a lot of lives and a lot of property in this municipality. But police chief appointments are always a very political thing, and I hate to say it, but it's true. I wrote a very sizable master's thesis on police chief appointments. It's just the nature of the position. So with fire chiefs, though, I mean, I think it's like a little bit different. I don't know how much different it should be or it's supposed to be, but we need to start thinking about how we're going to do it. I think we've mentioned before having a few members from the fire department on, maybe a resident, a board member, something like that.
Well, when we put together the screening committee, we had asked we preferred residents that had some sort of experience in the area so that they could, like one person was, I think she was a county correction officer or something like, where they're a resident and they have their citizen. So we had a couple of citizen ones that were, had both some professional experience but also had some community and citizen input.
Okay, so do you think it would be best if we started putting out for a screening committee to see who's going to...
Well, we're going to ask Andrea about the order.
Yeah.
Can we do that before we...
Yeah, what you did last time, and I think Alex is right, there's a lot of search committees that specifically do police, especially since police are full-time employees and they're very sensitive in your community, they're very visible, they have a very different role than a fire chief, especially when we don't really have we don't have a full-time fire chief. But the first thing that they did was just a community forum, bringing people together to say, what are we looking for in the qualities of a chief? That information was gathered. I put out a scope of work for what the select board decided they wanted to do for a process. And there are different things you can do in a process when you're hiring a police chief. You can have them do the background checks. You could not have them do the background checks. You can have them run an on-site testing or not have them do that. There's different things you can pick. And then once we had that scope of work, I put it out to several entities and got quotes back and responses back. And we picked one entity, I think it was actually MCI out of New Hampshire. I could have the initials wrong. And then from there, that process becomes it gets run through them because of the nature of a police officer search. And you pay them and they advertise, because it's a full-time police officer, much farther and wider than we would probably go with a fire chief. After that, there was a screening committee to review the applicants that made it through the steps of the process, including, like you said, there were initial phone call interviews, initial questions and writing samples done by the consultant. It was very intensive, including the training, the piece they did at the town hall all day to evaluate. There was 4 or 5 candidates in that, and they narrowed it down to a recommendation of 3. Or 4 that they moved to the screening committee. It may have been 4 or 5, but I can't recall now exactly. I'd have to look. The screening committee, the select board did designate what you wanted on the screening committee. You said, for the police chief, we want, a member of the fire department. We want a member of the public who has law enforcement, a general member of the public. We want a member of the select board. So they laid out very specifically the people, and you guys put out a call for everybody to just write back like a letter of interest. I want to be on the screening committee because I have X. And then you filled those screening committee positions. The screening committee developed standard questions, or we developed standard questions working with them. And then the screening committee met and interviewed the initial applicants to move forward based on the criteria that had been laid out under the original town desires plus the questions. that they developed. And then from that, they picked at least two. We had three finalists. One ultimately dropped out, but two finalists moved forward. And the select board was the hiring committee. So those interviews were done by the select board as the hiring committee in a public session. And from those two candidates, you deliberated and chose Chief Hall. So that was the process for the police chief. And it took 4 months, 5 months. It was very intensive, but when you're doing a police chief, that's not atypical.
Now, do we
Have our, sorry, my brain went away for a second. Is Skip going to apply for another year extension? Do you know?
I've not received anything, so I do not know the answer to that.
Well, then we should consider how many people we would like on a screening committee based on what Andrea said and what we did for the police chief. Something like that, where we can seek out citizen interest.
And
put
then the
something
community
together.
forum too.
Right. Yep. I would say the hiring, this is obvious at this point, but the hiring committee is always the select board. We are the appointing authority. We are the hiring people that hire town employees. So that's not going to change. But in regards to a screening committee, it's time to start brainstorming how large and who we want for people. Maybe something similar to what we did with the police, so that we're staying consistent in our screening committee techniques.
Well, especially for ones that are closely, our department heads, our chiefs.
Right.
I think the other distinction with police is, am I correct, Andrea? It's a contracted position, so there's a contract that goes with the police chief, and I believe the fire chief is the stipend. So the contracts are also an element to it that we won't have to deal with
Right.
the fire chief, unless we were. Would we do a contract for like? Did Whately do a contract for a half?
Well, Whately's employee is 20 hours a week.
Okay.
So he's actually employed as a full, like a 20-hour a week employee.
I think, I mean, so
I don't know that they had a contract per se, but they had a position created other than just a on call.
Okay.
We don't know how
they're going to show up for the community forum if we have one or if we have multiple. And I understand in the past there's been intermittent participation, but I think that might be a first step, because the community might have things that they would like for us to consider as members of the screening committee or something like that. You know, we want to make sure that there's this or that.
We actually had a good turnout for the police chief one.
Oh,
We did.
Yeah, because we had to use the gym, and I don't remember it being like 5 people like some other forums that we've done.
Yeah.
It was definitely well attended. And we had more than enough applicants for the screening committee too. Yeah.
So do we want to try to calendar that, or do we want to, we want to put out an announcement for the community forum?
Well, we need to first establish how many people we're going to have on it, I think.
Well, so the forum, I think.
Oh, not the, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right, the forum.
Well, it would be nice to kind of have a rough draft, if you will, or version 1 of the screening, what we think the composition could be, and that could be something we could run past a group of people.
Yeah.
And see if, no, we
Maybe-
think somebody
So
else, or
the fire department is
Yeah.
extremely adamant, and they've told me, many of the members have told me this in person, that they really want to be involved in this process.
yeah,
So I'm thinking maybe 2 to 3 fire members, 1 to 2 board members, and then 2 residents, 2 to 3 residents, or something like that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah,
Yeah, just make it odd.
make it odd,
make it
and
odd.
I wouldn't go past 7.
Yeah,
I think 9 gets really wieldy.
yeah. We don't then the scheduling and all the other hassles. So.
But I remember this is a rough draft when we ask our citizens.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know how many firefighters you're going to have, but you also might want to have either an EMS or a police representative as well, because they are also working with that chief pretty closely.
2 fire, 1 additional first responder,
Public safety.
public. 1,
Gives us
3, and then
2 citizens.
2 citizens, 1 board.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6. So 2
1, 2,
board.
3, 4, 5, 6, 2 board.
But again, this is a rough draft that we're going to take to the citizens at the forum and say this is what we're thinking.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I have a feeling there'll be some members in the fire department that will want to be like at least 3 of them be on there, so they can.
Well,
have
the
more.
meetings, there can be some open meetings too. I mean,
Yeah.
because then folks can come and participate and be present in a meeting.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I
they
think
don't all have to be on the committee.
Right.
They can participate
Right.
and provide comments at a public
they
session.
want to feel involved.
Yeah.
That,
So
that is
maybe
their
it's
biggest
really
concern.
important to schedule a public session just with the fire department.
They
for
want to be
example.
involved.
Well, and I want to just say I think that they're right to want to be involved because this is the
Absolutely.
person that's going to be leading them, and really that the chief of any department, as we've seen with our police, really sets the tone, and so I think it's really reasonable that they would want to be involved.
Okay, so let's all be. Let's just run this down one more time here. 2 fire personnel, 1 additional public safety member, 2 citizens, and 2 board members. Are we happy with that lineup?
Did we want to put any limitations on the citizens, like they need to be knowledgeable or anything?
I would just say preferred public safety background or something like that. So then when if we have more than we need, then we can say, oh, I like this person and I know that they can do well, but this person is equally, but
Maybe
they have
preferred
more,
fire.
they might have more perspective
Yeah.
on emergency services,
And we
for
can
example.
always try to
Yeah.
get a good mix, a good blend of
Yeah.
people too,
Yep.
if we have more people.
Well, we're going to be the ones creating the screening committee. That's our job. So it'll be up to us to keep that in mind.
So how many
Yeah.
do you have so far?
We have 7.
Okay. The only thing I'd be careful about is on the public safety is traditionally, especially in other towns, the fire department and the ambulance are the same department.
Yeah,
We're
different,
unusual
yeah.
in that respect. But some of the firefighters get their, I talked to one a few weeks ago who was going for his EMT. And there's another one who is also on so there's some overlap. And so maybe get one of the younger guys who has both EMT and firefighting experience and sees both departments. That's an
That's
idea.
a good idea.
Yeah.
We'll see
Okay.
when we get the.
We'll see what we get.
Yeah.
All right. So if we're good, then I will entertain a motion for the invention of a screening committee for the fire chief succession to involve.
We're not doing that. We were going to do the citizens first,
Yeah, but we're setting up
and
the
we're
committee.
bringing. I'm sorry.
Oh.
So I'm not trying to be rude. I just thought we were doing the citizen, the form first, and we were going to take our idea as a template and allow them to have feedback on it.
Well, I disagree. I think we should be creating the screening committee now, because we all know. I mean, when we do an event like this, there's going to be lots of citizens talking about what they want for a fire chief, but I don't think that should influence us as to how we design a screening committee. I think it's a pretty straightforward process. It's a very mixed amount of people that we have, because you're going to get citizens that are going to say, oh, it should be stacked with 7 people. Does that mean we're going to listen to them and say 7 residents should be on it? No. And then you're going to get some fire people that think the entire screening committee should be fire personnel. So I'd like to avoid that and to stay on the, I wouldn't say offense, but more upfront on it and say
You mean
that
proactive and
more
put it in front
proactive.
of
Like,
them?
this is what we're doing. We're standing by this. This is what we're going to be doing for our screening process.
Okay.
So
So
citizens will have more of an impact on what we have for a description of what we want.
right, I think that's their purpose.
That's
When
more
we
their
get them all
purpose.
together in one room and they say, well, this is what we want. This is what we like in a fire chief. This is who we want to lead us, and then that can be passed on to the screening committee to help them determine who will be best for Northfield.
Okay.
So-
I think that's reasonable. Thank you for thinking that through.
Yeah.
One comment that I would like to make about the composition is that I think we should be careful when we have EMS. When we have emergency responders, there's a potential that there would be more people from other services on the committee than there are from fire, and I would like to make sure that there are more people on fire. Do you understand what I mean?
Right.
Well, we said 2 from
Because 2
fire?
citizens and the citizens with preference for experience. I mean, if we have a whole bunch of folks
But
who
not necessarily, I think on the citizens, I would be careful about that they're not necessarily on either department, because to me that would be,
That hinders what we're trying to do.
yeah, I think,
Yes, but
Yeah,
I
does
mean,
that-
so
I'm just
if,
saying
but
that out
there are
loud 'cause
citizens in our town who have, you know, who have been in EMS for a really long time, who have been police officers for a really long time, or have been in fire for a really long time. And my point is that the final composition determining the fire should have at least a 1 vote advantage for people who have fire experience, not necessarily in the committee.
okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I do, but I would distinguish and make sure that on the citizen side, we would be looking for somebody who is not currently associated with the,
Right, but who
Yeah.
has experience.
yes.
Yes.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Well,
I'm
yeah, I
saying
think-
it out loud.
Yeah,
So
you're saying the same thing, but when people submit their citizen interest forms, it's also our job and what we're held accountable to do to make sure that we're hiring these people, appointing these people to the right part of this committee.
Right.
And that's our job, and that's on us to make sure we do that right.
But if we don't state, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but if we don't state what our criteria are going to be, specifically that thing I just said about the fire experience, then it will be harder to seem fair if we're turning down we have 2 equally qualified people, and one of them has a career in fire and one has a career in police, and we're trying to get it. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to be really upfront in our considerations, because in the past I've heard comments, as I know many people have, about this was unfair or that was unfair about what you guys did on the board, and I want to be really clear about these are the bases of our decisions.
No matter what, Sarah, you're always going to be told that you did something wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're going to have to accept that.
Yeah, and I'm against having like 4 firefighters. You might as well just let them pick who they want.
You don't want them to be
Yeah.
the majority.
Good
You don't want any of these groups
You don't
to be
really
the
don't want the firefighters to be a majority.
Right.
You want to have a nice blend.
right, you want the
Because
community
otherwise we
blend
could-
to come.
You know you're going to get a firefighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why?
That-
We'd be wasting a lot of time.
I agree with you, Bernie, and that's
Yeah.
why I was saying, and again, I'm just saying it out loud so it's clear to folks who are listening that somebody who's got public safety experience as a citizen, but not currently in either
Yeah.
any of the departments, right? And then reserve those other slots for people from those departments. And I would say preferentially for somebody from the department to be someone who's there's at least a couple who are working both.
Both sides of the fence.
Yeah, and I think that would be a really interesting perspective, and they're also
Excuse me.
earlier in their careers, shall we say.
Absolutely. Okay. So
So I think this is shaping up nicely.
yeah.
The other thing that I would stress with the citizen forums, and I can't remember if we did this with the police, was sometimes when people fill out the forms, they just fill it out like with their name and address, and it's always nice if they have a little paragraph about why they're interested, and I know that's on the form, but not everybody fills it out, and it's kind of a pet
Well, sometimes
peeve
it
of
makes
mine.
sometimes it makes a difference as to who we choose, because and
Well, 'cause you
that's
have
how I've thought of it,
information
because I
on
have
their-
information on
their
it.
intent and their experience,
Right.
and so that
And
I wanna
honestly,
stress
demonstrated
that.
interest. That has swayed my decision when I see folks showing up at meetings and showing
And
interest.
take the time to really fill it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
All right.
Good. We're making
So did we
progress.
want to set, we want to do a motion on that? Do we want to set a date for the community forum? Is that what we're?
Well, we have to make sure that the gym is available. There's a lot of sports going on and stuff. I don't really know how that works with the
Okay,
gymnasium.
not trying to push it. I just, as
Yeah.
long as we've gone through it.
Sandy, what do you think?
You guys could ballpark. What we do is we fill out the form
Yeah.
and ask them, is this date available? So,
Yeah. Ballpark it.
You want to try to stick it in the month of March?
You know, the other setting in there that's nice is the Kiva. Did you guys go into the Kiva at all for?
What is that?
It's another room that they have where the speaker is down below, and it's kind of like the gym, but it's a little bit smaller, so it's more intimate.
There's always the auditorium too. I mean,
Oh God.
I want to avoid the auditorium.
Well, I'm not expecting like hundreds of people,
No.
but the Kiva is, it's, what's the word? It's like a, It's a horseshoe circle. It's like this. It's a horseshoe circle, and the seats with tables are like in a classroom are all up above the speaker. The speaker is at the
Where is that in the school?
down near the guidance office. So instead of going to the auditorium, you take a left and go down the hallway, and it's at the end of that hallway. That's where they do their budget hearings.
Is it big enough to hold 100 people?
I don't know what the size is. I don't know if we'd get 100, but
Do we want it? We also have like the whole. We want to put it
Auditorium.
after the election, because there's like a lot of warm up to that, and a lot of time in our meetings are spent at that, and a lot of, you know what I mean?
So you're saying after May,
Yeah, like
after the election in May?
because it feels like we work, and then there's going to be a kind of, isn't there a lull at that period
yeah,
right after?
Thank God, yeah.
That's, we're in.
Well, there's there's a startup and then there's a lull because you end up with new folks on the board after the election.
Well, then we better get it, finalized.
But do we want to make a motion as far as the screening committee, what our recommendations?
Let's do that first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I motion that we recommend for the screening committee 2 firefighters, 2 select board, 2 citizens, and 1 public safety, EMS or police.
Motion's on the floor.
Yeah, and the other idea was to pull somebody earlier in their career from the fire who has both. It's really important to have both EMT and fire.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. Police is important, but EMT/fire.
But I think those are the kind of decisions we can make.
When we
First
get
of
the
all,
forms.
second. I'd like the second, and then we can discuss.
So Bernie made the motion and Sarah
Oh,
seconded it.
sorry, we're on.
So
motion on
now
the
we're
floor.
discussing.
And so I think that those are maybe the kind of things we can be a little bit like, we can decide as we have applications coming in.
Yeah.
You've stated it.
because
It's on the
somebody-
record.
No,
I'm
what
not
I'm
gonna-
saying is
yeah.
professionally speaking, most fire personnel have EMT, most fire chiefs have EMT under them.
Yeah.
And so if we end up in a hiring process, you're going to want somebody who has EMT experience who can be on the screening committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would prefer EMT if I had to choose, but
To just
We'll see who
rather than
applies.
just public space, public.
no, I'm not basing it on
Yeah.
who applies. What I'm saying is somebody on there has to have EMT experience.
And that'll be up to us when we get the citizen interest forms. I don't think that needs to be in the motion or anything like that.
Well, I do, but you guys made the motion and now is the time to set expectations. So if you agree with it, put it in. But if you don't,
Isn't every single firefighter basic trained? We're not all EMT basics.
No.
no. Oh, that's part of the concern. Yeah. It's a handful at best.
So
And when you look at the Whately information, there's definitely,
did you want to change so can you clarify what you're asking to change in the motion?
Then we can put it in.
I had 2 suggestions. One is on the firefighters to see if we can get someone who's earlier in their career who has skip the earlier in their career because that's just what I remember from Who's Who. The criterion is that one of the firefighters actually have EMT certification.
Okay.
And maybe we can I forget what the different levels are, but I know somebody does both basic on EMS and does firefighting.
If we get somebody.
Well, and there's a
not
third
get that.
third public safety position. There's a public safety position. We've got 2 firefighters and we've got a public safety position. Did you want that third one to be EMS qualified?
I'd like to have both EMS and police because they all work together in emergencies. But that's going to screw up the total.
Do we want to have 1 select board member? So we have 2 firefighters, 1 EMS, 1 police,
Oh, that's an idea.
2 fire.
Do
and
we
then
need
2 citizens.
Because we're going to be on hiring anyway.
2 citizens, And my addition is I'd like at least one of the citizens to have fire background, not be a member of the fire, but you know, have some kind of relevant experience to the person that they're
2
hiring.
fire, 1 EMS, 2 citizens, 1 police.
And at least one of the 2 citizens has fire background.
Preferred, yeah. Well,
Fire/EMS.
preferred public safety background.
And then
I specifically would like for it to be preferred fire background.
Okay.
Well, then
Thanks.
you're kind of stacking the deck, though, per Bernie's comment.
I'm not trying to. So they're not a
I'm
member
sorry, I
of the
didn't mean it
department.
like that, but
They're not a member. I don't mean they're a member of the department. I mean that
Yeah.
people, when they're making decisions about how the firehouse runs, I think
Yeah.
that people who have a career
Yeah.
in fire that are not part of the department, because we don't want to stack the deck, should have a preference. That's all I'm saying. And you were saying the same thing about wanting to do EMS, and we did that switcheroo. So that's just my comment on one of the citizens.
Okay, so we're going to have to amend that at this point.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a motion to amend. I'll hear a motion to amend the screening committee to 2 fire personnel, 1 EMS,
EMT qualified.
2
no,
citizens.
1 EMS department member.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 citizens, 1 select board person, and 1 police person.
And
This
that
is
we
just
give,
a motion to amend, and then we'll vote on it finally.
and that preference for the citizens, for at least one of the citizens' preference would be for someone with fire experience.
That's correct.
Okay.
Would somebody like to?
I don't.
So moved.
On the last point, I would prefer to see what we get. I would prefer that we actually draft something
Okay.
for the public.
So she so
Once
moved it.
we're
I
done.
need a second on it. A second to amend.
And so we're just saying a preference. We're not saying a.
Does somebody want to second it?
No!
The other option is to withdraw and redo, I think.
All right. We still have a motion for the original one, though, so I suppose we should just deny it and vote that down.
Okay, so we're not doing the amendment.
Right. So
Well, the
amendment-
person who
make
moved
a motion to
You can withdraw it.
withdraw the.
Yeah, I'll withdraw the amendment. Now,
Okay.
what do we need to do? What does it need to be?
Go ahead and somebody put forth whatever they want for a motion, and then we vote on it.
Okay.
I would do exactly what Alex said, and then on the preferences for citizens, I would just keep that a little bit more open to any public safety background,
Preferred public safety background is what I had down.
especially fire/EMS, something like that.
Yep.
So then when we put out if we go more narrow, then we might box ourselves into a corner in terms of the number of citizen applications, and then
I hear you, and I'll go
Yeah.
along with it, but I don't understand how preferred, whatchamacallit, especially fire EMS is different than preferred fire EMS, but we'll take anybody, we prefer that. I just don't see what the difference is between those, but I'm willing to,
just not
let's get this
required.
vote.
Just not required.
But I hadn't
preferred.
said required, I
Oh,
just
okay.
said preferred.
Okay, but fire/EMS/public safety.
Okay, so we're still on the motion to amend.
Okay.
Okay. And the motion to amend, as stated earlier, was for 2 fire, 1 EMS person, 2 citizens with a preferred public safety background. Okay. 1 board member and 1 police member. And I still need a second on the amendment.
I think we withdrew everything, so this is the
new amendment.
this is the one and only, hopefully.
one.
So moved.
I'm trying to
I
stay-
moved
I'm
for
trying
that
to-
amendment.
I'm trying to stay with it here. Okay, so it was motioned by Sarah then,
Seconded by me.
and seconded by B. Okay.
She's with us.
And
Discussion.
the discussion on this, if there is any more at this
Still a
point.
little too. I think it's too heavy on firefighters' emphasis, but that's just my opinion.
Okay.
And when you start doing the citizens with possible, so that's
Okay.
just
Well,
my.
is it clearly stated that we prefer, but we don't have to?
Yeah.
Is that?
It's
Do you
preferred.
still are
Well,
you
why
still
don't we just
uncomfortable
put
with that?
citizens?
I just don't want to
Yeah.
limit, I don't want somebody that doesn't have firefighter background that will come in, maybe you need somebody on the screening committee that can look at a person's, what type of citizen that person is,
Yeah.
look at other things besides being a firefighter about the person. That's what the citizens bring to the table.
Okay.
They bring a different perspective
Yep.
on that.
I hear
I
you.
don't want to just have all
I hear
emergency personnel
you. Yeah,
type.
I hear you.
I'd rather have a couple citizens who maybe have no firefighting background, but are going to be looking at the candidates and saying, this is the type of person I would like.
Okay, so we'll remove preferred public safety
Yeah.
background.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do
okay.
that.
I think that's a
and
good
then,
idea.
Like you said, and then
We'll-
we'll look at the citizen background, and
Mhm.
hopefully we'll have more than two anyway, and maybe
Right.
one fulfills
Yep,
Okay.
all expectations.
I'm good with that. I
Yeah.
think it's
All
good
right.
reasoning.
Okay.
Thanks, Bernie.
Yeah, good.
So
good
the
work.
motion's for 2 fire, 1 select board, 2 citizens, 1 EMS, and 1 police.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that is it.
Yeah.
Was seconded. Discussion.
And 1 select board member, you left that off the list.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it.
I believe he said that.
I second.
And I just made a motion and you seconded it, so we're gonna withdraw that motion
No.
just to be official, and then you just made a motion.
Okay.
And who's gonna second Bernie's motion?
He didn't make a motion. That
I was just stating what we was motioned before.
we're just striking.
Got it.
Can we do like? Is there such a thing as friendly amendment where we all agree that we're going to strike that last sentence?
Yeah, I think that's
So-
fine.
You were in discussion.
Sorry.
So motion by Sarah, seconded by you.
Yeah.
2 fire, 2 citizens, 1 select board, 1 PD, 1 EMS.
Yes,
That's it?
Yeah.
that's it.
That's it?
Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank God for Sandra. And Andrea.
Are we taking a,
We're gonna take a vote now.
okay.
All those in favor for the allotted format.
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous passing. That will
Thank
be our
you.
screening committee. Okay, we're done with it.
Good team effort.
Good.
Yes.
Do we want to put a call out to citizens? Or
Yeah, I'll be talking about that at announcements.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll state it again what
Good.
that is. Okay.
Okay, great.
Did you want us to try and find a date for the school to hold the forum, citizens forum?
Yeah, I'd like to have
Started talking about that.
Maybe we could do it before. What do you think, Andre? When should it happen?
If you're going to do it before May, then I think you're going to at least do April, because by the time you get this all organized, get to the school, I could certainly check on the Kiva and see how many people it holds. I think it's plenty big enough. It's like stadium seating is what it is.
And
Um,
the acoustics are better in there for people who are hearing.
Okay.
And if people can see each other, the auditorium is
Yep.
big for this group and dark.
And echoey.
Okay.
So it might be better discussion setting, but I can certainly ask how many people it holds. But if you guys wanna come to the date, we can, move around within the school if we have to, just based on what's available.
What are we thinking? Maybe like a Friday? Fridays in April? What's the
God.
best day? No best day is gonna exist. So
Probably not a Friday.
Okay.
I tend to get people out on a Friday.
Done that before.
all right.
Thursday? What did you say?
Mondays.
Monday?
It's usually when we hold our big meeting.
Okay. Well, there's five Mondays
We're
in
more
April.
likely to get a room too.
There's-
That's the
Well, we don't want Easter Monday, which is April 1st. Are we doing April?
Yeah, we're in April.
And it's also April Fool's Day, just best to avoid. The 8th is not a good one for me for work. What about the 15th, the 22nd?
That's tax day.
Tax day is the 15th.
The best one for me would be April 29th because that's what I have off.
29th is Bernardston.
Oh,
Bernardston's annual town meeting.
right,
Right.
right. Yep. So you won't get PNC TV
Back
for
to
that.
15th.
Okay.
For the 22nd?
Either one of those dates will be fine for me.
The 22nd is Passover. I don't know if that makes a.
Holy cow. literally. Let's see. Do we want to, oh, it's off-site, so it'll be hard to record. About the 23rd?
23rd works.
That's a Tuesday.
I'd prefer that if we could do the 23rd.
That's our,
23rd?
Yeah.
that's our off,
Yeah,
meeting.
that would be great for me.
That would work.
All right,
Usual time?
6.
6?
Yeah. Yeah, because people gotta go to, have to go to work. How long do they last?
I would hope it's not any longer than an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So
90
citizens,
minutes is usually plenty.
what do we call it? What is it called? I'm sorry, I'm
Citizens Forum.
tired. Citizens Forum. For fire chief.
Or public forum.
Or public forum, yeah.
We'll see what they can do as far as getting a room. Should we give her a couple?
Reach out to them with that date.
Okay.
There's no point in doing it then. So you want the Tuesday, the 23rd. So I'll check and see what the seating is in that room. And if it seems big enough, then we'll see if they have it available.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. And is that gonna be broadcast?
When we get a question for them.
Yep.
Tyler?
Can it be finalized
On Tuesday, the 23rd of April.
in the Kiva?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
Should be able to broadcast and live stream and everything. That's right
Okay.
next to our office.
Great.
Oh, great, perfect. That's what I thought. Okay, good. It's even better.
Okay.
Okay.
Outstanding.
All right, good. Good work.
We'll just I'll make an announcement about that at the end, and we'll keep on pushing it.
Do we want to make an announcement officially until we know for sure? Because if we announce it and then people are like, well, I saw it on the meeting, and then it ended up having to move.
I suppose we could wait, but like that's a date that we're thinking of right now. It's like a soft announcement, but it's not finalized until
Yeah.
we check. But we're all in agreement of that date at this time. So.
Well, the
Okay.
nice thing is we're doing this in advance
Yep.
too, so
Even
we've
2
got-
weeks from now, that's still a month
Yeah.
before the
Yeah,
meeting.
that's plenty
Right,
of time.
and then-
Forum, so it gives us time.
Right,
Plenty
and
of
then
time.
at the next meeting, hopefully Heath will be here
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
He's presenting his budget tonight in front of the Finance Committee for the Gilmontague District.
Oh.
As facilities
Good luck
manager.
with that.
Yeah. 6-town. All right, so we're good. I'm going to move on.
Yep.
6-town regional agreement representative recommendations.
Chris Hinkle.
Yes. Oh, come on, iPad, whatever this thing is called. All right, I'm going to pull that up here.
Yep. Pardon me.
All right. Let me, okay, 1 second. All right. All right. Hi, I'm interested in this subcommittee position. This is from Chris Hinkle, 201 Winchester Road, Northfield, Massachusetts. I'm a product manager for a consumer software product company, I'm assuming. I work remotely and moved to Northfield in December of 2022. I lived in Turners Falls for 18 months preceding that and San Francisco before that. I have some familiarity with the region, but I'm still new here. I am technically savvy and a decent communicator. I have an interest in civic engagement, but no real experience. And how many people were we looking for this?
2.
Yeah, 2. So we only have 1 so far.
Yep.
Well, it's better than having none.
Well, I would go with that, and I took some time after looking at his background, which maybe a fresh perspective would help.
Yeah, fresh perspective.
And there's other Northfield representatives on the board as well, so they'll continue to weigh in, I assume. And
Oh, I like that statement. I put that on my lawn sign 6 years ago. Fresh perspective for the future. You know, so.
okay. I'm just assuming. And the other thing that I did is I went back and I found the Greenfield Recorder articles, a couple other links, and I kind of put them all into a draft email for somebody who needs to get up to speed on where everything is, because they have their own website, their own Facebook page, etc. So I kind of, and I can send that to Andrea, and she can send it out to all of you as well if you want. Just,
I actually did something, not the same sources, but I did something similar about collecting data and information. So.
Yeah, I
I
like to do that on these big things because if you go and you look at all these sites, they're sometimes a little hard to manage.
So I'll forward that, and you can, and we can make a bundle.
Okay, great. Good.
So I'll entertain a motion to appoint. Somebody want to make the motion?
Chris Hinkle to the Six-Town Regional Agreement as the Six-Town Regional Agreement representative from Northfield.
A.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome aboard, Chris Hinkle.
Thanks
If you're
for stepping
watching.
up.
Really?
Thanks for stepping up and for your call to public service. It's nice to see.
I like when new citizens get involved.
Yeah, it's nice to see a newer individual.
Sarah. Newer.
Yeah. So thank you. Awesome. So we will actively be still looking for one more person to fill our Six-Town Regionalization Subcommittee representative.
I just want to note that I'm still relatively new, even after 11 years. So.
And I was just born yesterday.
We're all new, in some way, shape, or form. Okay.
Okay, very
On to the
good.
next.
Onward. Conservation Commission Administrative Assistant Compensation. I believe I have a letter here I'm going to read. Okay.
There's a typo in it.
Uh-oh.
That's okay.
Busted.
It's from Sarah Kearns. Dear Select Board, the Conservation Commission respectfully requests that the Select Board vote to compensate our Administrative Assistant, Robin Conley, at the same rate as current committee clerical assistants beginning January of 2024. We estimate she performs 16 to 24 hours per month of research and clerical work per month.
There's the typo. Per month.
Oops.
And that was voted by the conservation. I was the scribe in that, but that was voted at the conservation committee meeting. And so, may I give some background on it?
Please.
When we came before and gave the ConsCom update, B pointed out that she's doing all this work, that it would be a good idea to compensate her, and that's kind of the germ of that idea. And we, similar to, for instance, a Board of Health, we have a lot of state level paperwork and sometimes research where you have to go back in the files and look to find the information. And so there are other boards who have similar positions with maybe varying workloads, right? It's 16 to 24 hours a month. So we thought it was fair that she be compensated at the same level, just get the same as other people are getting. Robin is not on the committee. She's the scribe for the committee, but she was a member. She retired and downsized and moved out of town, but she's a member of ConsCom for many, many years and super knowledgeable. So really is an asset because she knows where the files are and knows what's going on and knows the people to. She knows all the details. So really useful and a benefit to the town.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would just clarify. I don't think I said compensate so much as investigate getting a clerk or a position. This has been a long history with Bill's request of the Finance Committee, with obviously varying results. And the key thing that we want to be sensitive to is there has to be a position that a person gets hired into, not
money in the budget.
And money in the budget. So in the past, what's happened is they couldn't find someone for the position. Was there a position, Andrea, or no? I remember
A number of years ago, over 10 years ago, there was a Conservation Commission and Planning Board Clerk. That position hasn't been updated since 2013 because they couldn't fill it. So when I started, they still couldn't fill the conscom position. We did hire a boards clerk that was to be engaged at least to start with minute taking because that was the immediate need. At that time, the conscom elected not to participate in using the boards clerk. It was about a year after that actually Robin started. So she started I think she started on the committee about 2021. So she was doing that when she was on the commission. So we didn't hear from them again. So way back, there was a different position that doesn't seem to have been filled in over 10 years. That if you wanted to do something at the very least, I mean, this has happened multiple times. You know, it's happened with other committees, it's happened with other boards, it's even happened in departments. So we created a form. We do have a new employee position form that people fill out to say exactly what they want, what they're looking at, how many hours, you know, what they're proposing, and then the budget. And then from that, the process usually evolves to creating a job description that would be for that position. And then the job description gets classified through the classification subcommittee, and then has to be put on. Usually positions are created by going to town meeting and being funded. So that's sort of been the progression of how we create positions.
We've done that process for a few years now.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't mention it because we were talking about other things, but then it would go through the normal. You would ask, the Conservation Commission chair would ask for it as part of their budget, like he's done in the past, and submit the paperwork with it at the beginning of the budget process, and then it would have already been through, at this point, it would have already been through the Finance Committee.
Right.
So there's no...
But this is a little tag on. I mean, I think that the Finance Committee, I would hope, would be able to... It's the bigger question. I mean, if we have a boards clerk, we could have the boards clerk come in and do notes.
Yep.
But we haven't seemed to be able to find a solution, and it was, you were the one that brought it to.
We didn't get
because
into the
in town we're a
procedural.
small town, and I think it's pay. There are other people being paid for that duty, and I think it would be fair.
They all got hired from a job description that was posted.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be
Yeah, we can't
careful.
just appoint her.
Yeah, and we can't
So-
retroactively give her.
But that was the purpose of the letter, is to get that ball rolling.
Oh, okay.
And so,
Okay.
this is the way we do it. So shall I take this form to Conscom? Is that the next step in the process?
I think, yeah.
And have us fill it out?
Is that right?
I would certainly do that. If they think they're designing a position, I would even tell them to draft a job description, because that's going to be the next step, because the select board has to approve any job description. And they really should think about a budget, because if that's going to be the case, you're going to want to take that new request position to the finance committee as soon as possible. They've essentially finished their operating budget. They're into capital now. So if you're talking an annual position, say you were saying 20 hours a week or so, you're talking close to $4,000 to $5,000. So that has to get in the budget somewhere. There is no line item to take that from at this time.
Other people are being paid to do the same work is what I think would be fair as a town. So
But
we'll
right,
do-
but budget somewhere with a job description.
So I've got the form, and I'll ask them to draft the job description and see about the budget. We'll go through the steps. That was the purpose of that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It wasn't clear because I thought the request.
Well,
was
we
about-
voted on it, but that's you know
Yeah.
how it is on committees. That's the way it goes, and
Well,
so.
We have very
It's
similar.
enthusiastic and supportive. I get that.
Yes.
The what was I going to say? Maybe resurrect the old job description.
We should be using something as a template.
Because at least, and then shoehorn it into like something, looking at the board clerk position. We also just did, I forget what the title is for the sewer, the office type clerk. So there's 2 or 3 job descriptions that you might be able to draw from rather than doing it from scratch. But obviously, if there was a conscom one, then you'd have all the details of conscom specific stuff.
Yeah. Andre, would it be possible for you to forward me the old
Do we have it?
planning board and stuff template? Just when you have a chance. I'll send this along too.
I can do that. You'll get it tomorrow morning.
Excellent, sure. Thank you.
Okay. So we're good for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
That's
and
good.
definitely ASAP, and then we could do the job description
That's good.
at the next meeting,
Okay.
Okay.
because that's all going to have to wrap up and then go on to the whole budget's going to have to go onto the warrant and
Okay.
get printed. Okay.
Next, town organizational chart.
Oh yeah, what was that?
I just requested, we had seen a draft of it, and I know that there's something going in a doc. So I'd like to know what I'd like to know what the final deadline is. I think that this one could use some work, and I just as far as
I like it.
making it. I just think it could, but I do data viz, so that's why, it's maybe some color coding or some this or some that. I think it could use, seeing as how we're trying to make a pretty, we're trying to make a town book that's useful for people, and the pretty isn't necessarily, but readable. More readable is important, and I just would like to work on it some. I'm too tired to do it right now. I think, I'd like to, but I wanted to bring it up and do maybe just some edits on it as to form and color and organization. So
Who made this?
Well, a couple things to keep in mind. This chart is it just one place in the book. Each department, when you start their, you'll read about them, and then their breakout of the organizational chart is also in their report. So they will, anybody looking through this, if they say, oh, let's look at the fire department, they can read what's listed from the fire department report, and they will then see just the fire department section. So they won't have to take the way the whole town operates from here. Now, we got feedback that everybody wanted to see everything. I mean, in the one that I saw from the budget book, they condensed this, fire chief, and then it said firefighters and officers. You can eliminate, because it becomes quite overwhelming. But once you do that, people don't necessarily see every position. So there's a trade-off here on how that works. But the budget book is going to go
that
in.
we could put into place that could make it easier to.
What's going on?
I'm agreeing with you. If you could just tell me what the deadline is, and if you could send me the file that you used to produce it, then I will just bring a draft in and we can talk about it. I'm not trying to drastically change. I'm trying to make it as understandable as possible.
I'll have to get that from the consultant. I did not create
It's
it.
pretty understandable.
And this budget book should be going to the printer in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So going to the printer means you need it in 2 weeks.
Yes, it'll be in the book. So
Yeah, but it's not going to be anything drastically different than this, right?
But I mean, that's because I asked. It's a little frustrating because I asked about it earlier, and so if there needed to be a short turnaround, I would have liked to have. But
is there some cosmetic thing? I can pass that on to the consultant. They can change things. You're not going to change the placement of anybody. You're just saying cosmetically you don't like the look of it.
You color code by department, or I just like to. It's a little short notice, but I'll work on it and I'll send it out to the board, and then we can, I guess, vote on it at the next meeting or something.
I don't want the rainbow on here.
Nope.
We don't need the rainbow.
Do some color coding and it probably get done faster. You wouldn't have to work on it if you want me to ask the consultant to do that.
Then how's that?
I think that would make sense. Don't trust me.
I'm in the
'Cause
middle
I
of
tend-
finals. I know. I'm just really.
I'm the type of person who'll say I'll do it, and then you get home and you're like, I haven't had dinner and I've got other things. If you've got simple changes, let the consultant do it and then come back. And in my experience with all org charts, you always have one piece of it that is just massive because you're trying to fit everything onto one page. So if it can't, for some reason, cannot be done or changed in the next 2 weeks, that doesn't mean we can't tackle it later. But just keep in mind historically.
But I mean, is this book a yearly book?
It's a new yearly book.
It can be changed
Yeah.
next year.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's all online too.
I'll ask Take another stab at it to make it less confusing and see what they come back with.
Just keep in mind, people have never really seen this before either. I just texted somebody the other day. She's like, oh, okay. Because we were talking about, a lot of folks don't realize, for example, the planning board and the select board are all on the same level, and we're
But
really
I mean,
here.
and that they're
Yeah,
authority-wise, they're not though, because the select board sets the policy for the town. Where they're elected, so their choice is on the same level, but the authority are different realms, and that's actually part of one of the issues.
As elected board, they oversee a certain law in the state, and that's their authority. Just like the wetlands is the.
I was saying there was a different authority.
Boards can't really tell each other what to do.
Yeah.
we don't have responsibility for policy involving the planning board, for example.
Just the town of Northfield.
Yeah, general operating. So yeah, just want to be.
But they have their own decisions that they make that have nothing to do with.
Well, yeah, Board of Health. The confusing part is because Board of Health, sewer, all of the billing and the personnel and all of that go through the town. That's where there's some overlap, and that gets a little confusing because we supervise the town administrator and all of those departments.
I think it looks good.
We can always change it next year.
Yeah, we can always make adjustments
Yeah,
to
I wouldn't stay up late at night doing this.
Let's see what they can do with it.
I'm in my
good.
finals.
Okay.
All right, onwards. Topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting. I can't think of anything. Nothing going on there. That's good. All right. Committee board appointments. I'll hear a motion to reappoint Kathleen O'Shea as a substitute librarian, grade 1, step 1, at $15.71 an hour.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Proposed agenda items.
I looked at the list and I'm fine with that.
Okay.
It has the first light stuff on there, and that deadline is coming up. FYI, April 22nd.
Andre, let's see if we can get Kristen Alecho in here sometime, maybe in April. It was my original idea from the Western Massachusetts Director, Office of the Governor. Reach out to her. That's all I have to say. Everything else looks pretty good in this ever evolving and changing proposed agenda topics sheet.
Yeah.
Looks good though.
I think we should put solar on there. We've heard it a couple of times.
Yes, based on our residents, we've heard it concerning solar. I don't really know what we can really do about it. We're not going to talk about it right now.
It's not our purview.
It's really
It's not in our purview, but we can make statements about it, and
Not political statements.
we can
Be
we can make
careful.
statements in support of, we can, and other select boards have. I mean, we were
Before a
joking.
hearing?
We were,
I would be very careful in messing with anything involving that right now.
okay.
I don't
These
want to.
things
Well, let's
get-
put it
these
on the-
things get challenged in court.
Very
I hear you.
difficult, and if we start slapping our name on things where we're making a statement on it, I don't want to end up in court talking about that.
Got it. I hear you. Can we put it on the, maybe sometime in the future agenda? I'd like it just on there.
I think you just allow people to come in and do their citizens' comments, and like
They
I
have
said,
the
it's
camera
really, we have
3
no
minutes.
authority to squash that.
Nope.
Well, I wasn't saying squash or
to
anything. I was
say,
just
go
saying
ahead and do
to
it.
have it
We-
on the
we don't
agenda.
have that
I'm not going to
authority.
say anything about it. I let
Yeah.
citizens come and they can say what they want to say, and that's all I'll say about it.
I'm not even saying anything
Not even
personally
saying
about
anything.
it. I want everybody to play out, and
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen comments and I just stay out of it.
stay out of
me
it.
too.
It's not our job.
Yep.
Not at the
But
moment.
they're welcome to come and do citizen concerns here.
Yeah. And that is a general announcement. Anybody has citizens' concerns and would like to speak on whatever issues that they feel passionate about as a concerned citizen, concerned resident, you are more than welcome to come forward and speak about your concerns in front of the board, on the record, on camera.
I have to say our recent ones, just as a general note, have made appropriate use of time, and prepared comments really help understand where that person's coming from.
Yeah. And very good. Okay.
Announcements? We're almost there.
So I have a bunch of announcements here. I want to just let me get through these, please. All right. So this Thursday, there's a school committee meeting located at the Bernardston Senior Center, 20 Church Street in Bernardston, Massachusetts. That's Thursday, March 7th, 2024 at 6 p.m. They have an agenda that is going for 25 minutes of a bunch of stuff. And then at 6:30, there is a joint meeting of the select boards and the finance committees of Bernardston, Leiden, and Northfield. So, our time will be at 6:30.
That's at the senior center.
This will also be at the senior center, main hall, the big room there. So that's pretty straightforward. So attend, watch it if you can. We'll be there. I'll be there. So that's good.
Is BNCTV doing it or?
Tomorrow night's
Tomorrow
meeting.
night?
Meeting or the school committee?
No, the
3:10.
Sorry.
School.
Yes, we're doing the 3:10.
Oh, okay. So you
And it's
can-
an open meeting, so citizens can come.
Right.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
And
none of
there's
that's
public
closed door.
comment at the beginning.
Next, Citizens Interest Forum. So we have officially created a screening committee for the succession of the fire chief position, which will consist of 2 fire personnel, 1 EMS personnel, 2 citizens, 1 board member, and 1 police official. Okay, so we are looking for those applicants. Please, if you fit any of those criteria, which please just send in your form. And
Was this kind of the soft announcement? Because we're going to have, this is like a month and a half before we even do
No, that's the forum.
public. Okay,
this is for the citizen interest forum for the screening committee.
right.
For the forum, this is it's a soft announcement that we're going to try for April 23rd at 6 p.m. at the school. Location at the school to be determined, date to be officially determined at a later time, but we are trying for that. So, and then lastly, it is with great regret that we, as a board, submit our condolences to the family of Lois Stearns on her passing on Monday, March 4th. Lois served the town for 32 years, serving on both the select board and the finance committee. I believe 1990 to 96 was her time on the board, and then 96 onwards to our present time as a member, and I should say leader as well of the finance committee. Lois demonstrated a vast amount of knowledge and oversight in the financial practices of municipal government. And she got me a couple times when I first started out in this field on just what the laws are in regards to how stipends work and how getting paid works and typical budget and municipal government theory. So I was really grateful to her for that. And when I was made aware of her passing a few days ago, it just made me reminisce on the things that I really appreciated for her. And those were some of the memories I had of Lois in front of her in this same room. So it's going to be a big miss. She was a foundational member of this town, of our community. And I think we should be recognizing her loss. And I'm really sorry, as the chair of the board, for her loss, and condolences to the family. So just wanted to put that out there. If anybody else has anything to say on that.
Thank you guys also, because you recognized Lois last year by dedicating the town report to her. And I think that doesn't always happen before someone leaves the town. And she was very touched. And so I think that it was very timely that the select board went ahead and did that. And I think that that was really touching to her and her family. And I just want to say that as somebody who's worked in 4 towns now, Lois did a great service to the town of Northfield in the way she left the finances. And then the last thing I got to work with her on, which was the financial policies and procedures, which she spent a lot of time on. And it's not always something every small town does. So she did some real forward thinking for the town, not only just in the year she served, but for the future. So the town does owe her a lot more than just some of the years of service. She thought way ahead. She was quite a lady, and I had the honor to work with her towards the end of her tenure, and she was really always loved Northfield, always.
I loved when he met there.
Yes. So I was on the committee for the financial policies and procedures, and believe me, she went over everything. And it's a really thick book, and she went over everything. The other thing that we used to, I still think about, is when we do classifications and you have to rank the position. I mean, she was always the representative from the finance committee, and she just could tear through those. She was so used to doing them. And then we would all get on Zoom because of COVID and stuff, and she got all up to speed on all the technology. She handled all her emails and her technology. And we would go through classifications in like a matter of minutes, not like a lengthy meeting, because she had thought it out, and we could really see sometimes, like Andrea might be higher on one thing, I'd be lower on another, and Lois would be right in the middle, and we'd kind of somehow arrive at what Lois thought on some aspects of that. But she was a tough cookie too in terms of going before her. Well, if anyone's ever gone before the finance committee as a commission chair, I got a grilling my first year that took like a half an hour, and I think the fire department only took like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something. She grilled me on a request for $200 for books. And rightly so. What she was doing was, well, what's the library's involvement in this? Where are these going to be kept? How are they going to be made available to the public, etc.? So whether she was talking big dollar amounts or small dollar amounts, she definitely took care with each thing that came before the town.
So
And she and Jane were the originators of what was once the 4-town, but now the 3-town committee meeting that you're going to tomorrow. She and Jane from.
I believe we are, and I believe it's important to recognize that she had a very long career working for the government. I believe it was for the Social Security Administration. Can't be quoted exact on that, but she did have a career working in that sector. So she was always around numbers, always around this type of data, and she knew her stuff. And I think she set the standard for what a finance committee should be, and I believe we have the one we have today. And the members on it who could all probably share something that they've learned from her.
Oh, for sure.
So
I'll tell you one more quick anecdote. Monday night I went to the finance committee meeting, and afterwards we were all standing around talking about Lois, not knowing that she had passed. But we were all talking about Lois and thinking about her. And then the next morning I got a text that she had passed. But we were talking last night about the fact that she passed on the day of a finance committee meeting. And everybody on the finance committee was talking about her at the end of their meeting. So it seems fitting, and it kind of gave me goosebumps.
I have a couple of things to announce, not nearly as important, but
sure.
There's on the 16th of March, there's a St. Patrick's Day music event, and that's going to be at Cameron's Winery. I'm giving a Lyme talk about how to avoid Lyme disease, and that's on April 4th. That's going to be here in Town Hall in the auditorium.
Kill them all. Just eradicate the world of those.
Nuke them from space, yes. And then there's a bike ride that runs through, that goes from Turner's to Northfield, and that's on Earth Day, and everybody's invited to come ride a bike. And then the last thing is there's currently a comment period open on the FERCOG stuff, the river projects. And that was a 60-day
That's FERC.
comment.
FERC. It's not FERCOG.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission.
And that's a 60-day comment period, but I think we have about 45 more days. And so that's an opportunity for citizens to speak up and give their comments on any side of that issue. It's your time to talk.
And if you need more information, go to the Connecticut River Conservancy, and they sum everything up and they tell you how to submit comments to FERC as an individual.
During that comment period is the only time really that you can.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then we have it on our agenda because the town will be filing motion. We're working with FERCog to file the necessary motions for us as interveners. Yeah.
Okay.
Recognition for service. I just want to shout out to Braden Thayer on his 1,000-point
Yes.
career as a junior at Pioneer Valley Regional. His dad is just got his, I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, I think it was his 300th win, and his son just got his 1,000-point, which is a huge milestone for basketball players at the high school level.
Who's the father?
Scott Thayer, coach.
Yeah, that's great.
They've done a great job with that basketball program, so kudos. It's really exciting.
All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you, folks.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.